right, this week's guest is a father, a son, a husband, and a brother, retired PGA golf pro, Mike Admire. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad you came. And Mike is getting ready to move to Florida on me, which was kind of a sad moment. I've known Mike for 2 years now. Worked with him here at the body shop. Got to know Mike fairly well, but there's a lot that I don't know about Mike that we're going to learn about Mike, and we're also going to let him tell his story. But Mike is here on Bent Over the Barrel podcast to tell his story, which will lead up into his days of being a golf pro and living in Hawaii for 12 years, wasn't it?
Thereabouts, just about 12.
Yeah, so Mike, you were born here in Indianapolis. Let's talk about your time as a kid and some memorable moments that you had as a kid. And I know you were real close with your dad, and he got you on the track of liking the game of golf and everything about it. So let's talk about, you were born here in Indianapolis, correct?
I was born and grew up on the south side of Indy. Attended Perry until I was about a sophomore in high school and ended up at Cathedral. But I was about 4.5 to 5 when my dad put a golf club in my hand and never really looked back. He vicariously lived his life through me, as he was one of the top golfers in the state as an amateur and gave up going professional to raise a family. Ended up adopting my brother and myself and gave us a good life. So
heck yeah. Well, what are some memorable moments you have as a kid when it comes to the game of golf or basketball, or does anything come to mind when it comes to that stuff?
There's a lot of them, but yeah, growing up and playing golf, some of the times that I really enjoyed was we'd have these father and son events at the country club my dad was a member of in Franklin, and I'd get to go out there and play with him as a team, and it was pretty awesome. And Sundays he would not go to church, and I could skip church once in a while and go, if I was very quiet, and hang out with the guys on the golf course.
Heck yeah.
I was a young caddy at that point in time, but that's all we knew.
Heck yeah. So leading up into your days throughout high school, now, did you know what you wanted to do as you entered into that later segment of your teen years? Or
it's funny you ask, because I was for 20 years a PGA golf professional, but I actually gave it up going into high school because I was an accomplished basketball player. Played basketball through high school, played a little bit of football, but really focused on the basketball, and ended up going and playing in college. If I would have had better grades, I would have played somewhere pretty big. But books weren't my thing, people. Understand you can get to the top things in your life if you want to. And just because you're not so book smart doesn't mean you can't go out and achieve anything you want to do.
Heck yeah. So leading up to that, so how long have you been married?
Going on 13 years. Actually, no, I take that back. We just had our 13th anniversary. I got my son's 11. It's been interesting. The first stint I had in Hawaii as a golf pro, I came back. The economy had tanked. I owned a house here. Came back and met my wife 3 months after coming back. So I kind of felt like there were more powers in our universe driving me to come home in order to meet her.
Heck yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
What led up to you, or what led you out to Hawaii? Of all the places you could go, which you're going to Florida, which is awesome. I love Florida, but what got you out to Hawaii altogether?
So a really good friend of mine's parents had a timeshare out there, and they invited me and my buddy to come out there for a few months, as long as we could get the plane ticket. So we went to the island of Maui. And I spent 2 months on the island of Maui and just fell in love with the whole lifestyle, and just told myself, it's funny, on the island of Maui is the golf course Kapalua, the plantation course, and I was a professional there for a while. And at this point in time on Maui, I visited it and was like, I'd like to be a pro here one day. And, kind of throughout my life, when I put my mind to something and determine I want to do something, I go do it. And that's one of the things I did, 10 years later, maybe 12 years later, I am there and I'm a golf pro at that course.
Heck yeah.
And it's pretty cool doing that. My first stint was on Oahu, where I was at working at Turtle Bay, which was really awesome. And I got to go there simply because I spent the winters out there with my parents. My brother and sister-in-law moved there and have been on in Hawaii for about 24 years now. So in the beginning, we just go out there in the winter and hang out with them. My parents would get a place, and because I was a golf professional, I got to go to Turtle Bay and work out. And the guys thought I was kind of a nut and decided, hey man, you want to come work for us? So I packed up and moved. And I think that's one thing you're interested in, is the fact that I just pack up and move a lot. We find some interesting places to go, and we go.
Heck yeah.
So
Man, I tell you, so, with this podcast, we're looking to help people too that are at a crossroads in their life where they may have something tragic come up, or a loss of a loved one, and things like that happen in everyone's life. But I'd like to talk a little bit about the time leading up to your father transitioning into the spirit world, and how you as a young man dealt with that or coped with that, and especially being as close as you were with him. And was it something that you were prepared for, or knew was coming, or was it just kind of an all of a sudden?
we knew it was coming. I was out in Hawaii. I was working at Kapalua. We knew his health was getting. He's been a diabetic his whole life. I quite honestly thought that it would come earlier. He didn't. He wasn't the epitome of health when it came to eating and things like that.
Sure.
So, yeah, we knew it was coming. We came back to the mainland. I went to Pinehurst, and then we transitioned back here. But the time I got with him at the end was huge. And honestly, I would have never been doing what I did in the golf world if it wouldn't have been to him. The golf took me some amazing places following this career. It was pretty cool what happened. And he was there every step of the way. When he passed away, I was the head golf pro at Broadmoor Country Club. And I walked away from it. My son had come to me at that point in time and kind of asked, Dad, where you been? He was 9 at the time. And it was time for a change in my life so I could be around them more. They followed me around the country and stuff. So
sure,
we, and honestly, golf wasn't the same after that once he passed, because it was, I just remember talking to him about golf every single day.
Yeah.
And honestly, I haven't played much since then, but the passion that he gave me for it, that's one of the reasons we want to go to Florida too, so I can get back in the swing of things. This goes back to things you put your mind to.
Sure.
My dad, when I was working at Turtle Bay, and I had to have been 29 or 30, says to me, he goes, son, you're never going to play on the PGA Tour, but you'll play on the senior PGA Tour. And you can try out for it when you're 50. So everything I've done in my life, I've tried to be successful at and done everything I could to be it. So that's one thing I kind of, in the back of my mind, know it's I want to go back and do.
Yeah, because it was amazing to see your transition from golf into the car collision repair industry, and with good success and just a little bit of time, you transitioned into that really well, and did really well at it, and still will continue to add to your bag of tricks when it comes to this down there. But it's amazing for me to see someone come out of an industry like golf and pick up on collision repair, like you have, especially dealing with Tesla. Of all the car manufacturers, Mike's become a wizard at Tesla, guys. You won't find anyone any better at blueprinting or ordering parts or dealing with customers when it comes to Tesla, which with Tesla, you assume that what I call fan base, or that ownership base of those cars, are a little more in need of some attentive repair themselves, because when you crash a car, obviously it's not your ideal situation. But I'd imagine that, during your time in Hawaii, I want to talk a little bit about that. I'd imagine that you went to some parties over the years there, or gatherings, and met a lot of interesting people.
Yeah, it's, I've seen a lot of movie stars, a lot of people that kind of swing this world around because of what they do and the influence they have. One really quick one I'll give you that's kind of funny. I was fresh in Hawaii. I'm green. I don't care about surfing. I really didn't know much about surfing. And here comes this guy walking up with no shoes on. And I'm like, dude, you got to put your shoes on. And he's like, no, man, it's okay. I'm like, you got to put your shoes on. This goes back and forth for a minute. He goes back, puts his shoes on, says, hey, man, go out to the cart. There's something for you. And on this thing's a $100 bill. Says, to your shoeless friend, Kelly Slater. Still to this point, I have no clue who the #1 surfer in the world is. And I go back, and these guys are like, what'd this guy say to you? What'd he say to you? And I'm like, man, he was arguing about the shoes, and he gave me this. They're like, do you know who this dude is? And I'm like, I have no clue.
Sure.
And they're like, that's Kelly Slater. And I'm like, who the hell's Kelly Slater?
Right.
And they're like, you're a fucking moron. So they tell me later on, I get back, see my brother. He's like in disbelief. I treat this guy like this and wants the money. And obviously, here you go, dude. You can have the signed money. We're going to fast forward to a party sponsored by Oakley we go to. And we walk in this house. It's right on Pipeline. Oakley sponsored us at the golf course. They sponsored Kelly Slater. This is his house, their house. No clue. Walk in. 2 people on each side of me. Everybody's taking off their shoes. I have my shoes on. I have no clue of the customs going on. And lo and behold, this guy comes and party music. It's going on in there, dude. And through the back comes none other than Kelly Slater, who starts screaming at me, hey, what the hell are you wearing shoes in my house for? You could have heard a fucking pin drop in this joint. Music stops, part ways. He comes storming up to me. Obviously, the 2 people I'm with are local, and they ditch me.
Mm-hmm.
And I look like a dumbass, JP. Like a dumbass. And he walks up to me. He's like, why are you wearing shoes in my house? And just starts belittling me. And people are like, oh, my God, who is this guy? And then laughs and gives me a giant hug and was like, man, you're the only guy that's really treated me like just a person.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't treat me as Kelly Slater. You treated me as a person. And I'll always respect you for that. And I go, well, to be honest, I didn't know who you were. Dude, he busted out laughing. Was like, you're good with me. Let's go.
That's great.
So there's been a lot of great things that's happened because of it. You meet a lot of great people, but I got to tell you, I really didn't meet my true people until I came into the car industry world.
Sure.
This is who I am. I felt like I was always somebody else in the golf industry. Mm-hmm. Maybe I did it because that's what my dad wanted me to do. It was awesome doing it. First of all, people, I am dyslexic and attention deficit disorder. In the 90s, when I graduated, you really didn't know much about it. They're like, give you speed, give you pills, you'll slow down.
Sure.
To get to where I've gotten to took a lot of hard work and dedication. And anybody out there with a learning disability or anything else, I am a testament to you can do whatever the hell you want to do. Understand who you are and understand what it takes for you to understand information and project it. Understand what you're great at and do it. Don't not do anything or just think about I'd like to do it. Just do it. If you want to do something, life is short. Just go fucking do it.
Yeah.
And that's what I found with my wife is, we're about traveling and seeing things, and sometimes it's time to make a change and shake things up.
Sure.
Going back to you talking about the rut, it's like if you're sitting in a rut, get out of it.
Sure.
You can get out of a rut. You just have to change the mentality of the way you think about it and change the thought. I always said this to my son, and at 7 years old, this was his comment. I'm always like, son, don't live your life in a box. And if you think about your life in a box, if you live your life in a box, all you do is stare at the corners. And my son goes, Dad, well, if you live outside the box, you can see the angles. Really let that settle in and think about it. And that's true. Mm-hmm. Get out of the box in the everyday thinking and start thinking outside of it. And you're going to start seeing different things that can be done in different ways to do it. And, that's my biggest thing is I try to learn. Man, dude, I've learned so much from you here.
Sure.
Like, you helping me with my car and stuff.
Oh, I've enjoyed every second. Very seldom do you find people that you just really click with, just a couple ticks shy of 40, and Mike's entering into his next phase, which is the 50s. I felt like it's just one of those people that are put in your path, maybe for a short season, but put in your path for a reason. And I've really enjoyed my time with Michael, and got to know a great man. And now that you're entering into your 50s, what what is it you foresee yourself doing long term? I know obviously Florida is going to be a change of scenery, especially in the wintertime. But what is it you want to accomplish in your time down there?
Get my son through high school. He's going to go into 7th grade. It seems like he's already entering college. And really, to me, my biggest thing is this. My wife has traveled all over the country. When I moved out to Maui, I had just gotten married, like a year in, had a baby, and then I'm out there for 7 months before her and my son got there. And she's taking care of a newborn, graduating college, taking care of a house. I mean, she's an amazing woman. She's given me the ability to do everything I've done. But the cool thing is, her favorite thing she's done is she graduated 200 class at IU Kelley School of Business in HR. She did it at a hotel in Hawaii and loved it. So, that to me, she has so many places to choose from, and whatever she wants to do as far as work. I got something I'm doing well at, which is nice. I mean, it's fun. I've enjoyed every minute of working. I'm a sponge. It's like when you dive into something, learn everything about it, do everything you can. Once you lose interest, it's time to do something else.
Sure.
I mean, I hate to put it that way, and maybe that's what puts people in a rut.
Right.
Maybe you get put in a rut because you hit that point where you're not learning anymore, and it's just you're going through the motions, and it's time for a change.
Sure.
Don't be scared of a change.
Sure.
You get scared of a change.
Sure. I know a lot of people get scared, and it's easy to stay comfortable, in your corner. I'm one of those people that's guilty of that. But you get comfortable. For me, myself, I've been comfortable being single and alone for many years, and it's hard for me to want to break free from that. And so kind of get in my corner and just, I've kind of turned my life into just, kind of work and home, and that's it. And kind of close my surroundings off around me. But I'm learning as I enter into that, 40s to kind of just let things go and open up to new opportunities and really learn to do other things and do them well.
I was like that, dude. I mean, I was totally like that. I mean, even being out in Hawaii, I wasn't like chasing the women and stuff. And I actually met my wife online. It's something called Plenty of Fish in the Sea, a website. Highly recommend it. We're not sponsored by them, but we should be. And really, my thing was this: our paths, and she came into high school when I was just leaving high school.
Okay.
I went on a blind date, or I went on a date with one of her friends. Didn't obviously know it. In our first date, we went to this casino. We come up to the beer tub, and the chick she was friends with, I went on a date with before, was slinging the beers, dude. And I'm like, she's like, don't I? My wife's like, he's with me, bitch. Grabbed the beer and walked off. I was like, God damn, did you know her? And she's like, hell yeah, she ain't getting you. I was like, holy crap. Like, that was hilarious. But it's like our paths had kind of crossed, but we had never met. And I never would have met her unless I went onto that website. She was a full-time student. She was working, and I came to realize that the people I didn't want to meet somebody in a bar at that point. I've done that bullshit, It's like I wanted to meet somebody that was meant to be. And hands down, it was meant to be. I mean, it was just time,
Sure.
And everything in life, to me, really happens for a reason. There's paths laid out for you. What do you choose, and which way is it going to go? So, I mean, your life is a journey. You need to embrace your journey because life is too short. My wife lost her sister when she was like 22 or 3, maybe 25, somewhere in there. She was in a car accident after leaving the bar. To this day, it was just right down the street from this location. They still don't know what caused it.
Wow.
And it's just, there's just no closure to it. And, I think that's a reason she really wants to get out of Indiana. But this moves for her as much as it is for me. I mean, I just want her to be happy. Dude.
Sure.
So,
yeah. It's amazing how I'm really drawn to the unknown, the uncertainty of the future and what you can't see. I put a little more faith into things that I can't see than what I can see and tangibly hold in my hands. But that's one of the things that makes me admire Michael Admire is your uncanny ability to also just enjoy the unknown and what's to come and those things. And man, I tell you, it's something you either have or you don't. You're an entrepreneur in your spirit, and I like that about you. And I tell you, it's been an amazing couple years. And just because you're going down south to what I call the Peter of America, Florida, doesn't mean that that's
I'm going to St. Pete.
Yeah. Oh man, but that doesn't mean that it's the end of the road.
No, this journey's just
it's just begun. I used to go down every year in 2015 and 16, 17, 18. We'd go down to Destin, Fort Walton every year, and Panama City Beach, and along the Emerald Coast Parkway, which was outstanding. And but I have a fondness for St. Pete, Clearwater, Tampa Bay. That area to me is probably the hottest spot in Florida. When it comes to Florida, there's just so much to do down there, and you're going to have a lot of things to do down there. Not just golf. Do you know anything about the golf courses down there around?
They're like Sarasota, but I mean, honestly, no, I haven't paid too much attention to it. I'm gonna get down there and get settled in, and get the wife and kid down there. But once I get down there, I'm gonna find a place to start practicing because AJ wants to start beating on the balls and wants to get on the golf team. So it's like I'm pretty proud of him for that. It's crazy, like being a high impact athlete like I was for as long as I was. I don't push sports on him. I want him. He's so smart, man. The kid's been in honors classes since day one. He gets all A's and B's, and it's like. I asked God when he was born, just give me a healthy child, please. Whatever from there happens, it's cool. And I don't push the sports on him, although I'm coaching his basketball team, which is fun.
That's what I want to talk about.
Watching the growth, man. Oh my God. I'm excited about doing it. We had a really good season this year, and 4 teams in our division, and we get dealt the smallest and most uncoordinated team there is. And we win 4, we go 4-4 and come in second place, which is absolutely insane. So we got the tournament coming up next week, and hopefully we can, knock it off and win it. But watching my son play basketball over the last 2 years and grow as a man and do this stuff and get tough out there, it's pretty cool.
Heck yeah.
And, I tell you what, I would say something really funny and made me laugh. So last week, this past Wednesday in our game, he lays a pick on this kid. And he laid this pick on this kid so hard, this kid just crumbled to the ground. And the impact was so violent that my son even went down. But I mean, it was a little after the pick. And they called a foul on him because they didn't know what to do. They're like, holy crap, this kid just... And I just kept telling him, dude, when you set these picks, just plant your feet. And man, he's like the little Bill Lambier out there just beating on people, undersized and knocking them out. After the game, I was like, dude, hell of a pick. Good job. I couldn't yell that in the middle of the game because I'm the coach, but hell yes. It was cool, Your life changes when it comes to a kid. I remember when he was born and the first time you cried, dude, it was just like, holy crap, my life is I hate to say this, but I mean, some people out there are going to hate me for saying this. You live for yourself a lot as you're going, even when you're with somebody. But when all of a sudden, even when you have a spouse, you're still kind of living for yourself a little bit, And then you have this person that you're responsible for like that you helped create, and it's like I ain't living for myself anymore, dude. Ever since then, I got through the PGA apprentice program in 17 months, the second fastest ever to have done this thing.
Wow!
And it's like so. I was on a really fast timeline to do it anyways because I transferred in from what they called 1.0 to 2.0 and I wanted to kind of keep my credits, but I had X amount of time to do it. And it was right after my son was born and I said, well, let's go. And I went through it in 17 months, man, and it was like a whiz through that thing. And it's like when I got done, my dad wrote me this letter that every time I read I tear up. Like, he was a tough dude. My dad was a tough dude, man. And like his philosophy in basketball growing up was no blood, no foul.
Wow.
When he coached.
Yeah, that's
so
basketball.
These kids hammered me growing up, and it just made, when I got older later, it's what made me a better player because I was stronger and mentally tough. But I hated his ass back then for it.
Sure.
I mean, dude, but he was such a good guy, and there's so much of me from him when I'm coaching, which is really pretty funny. Like some of the plays he ran, I still run to this day. I mean, it's interesting with how we end up being. Like, I don't know, like you're like your dad.
Right. Exactly. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's definitely interesting, man. I tell you, I hope that during this podcast that our viewers are actually able to find some peace in what Mike has went through, and if they're encountering the same thing, there is hope. And what's your thoughts on time heals all wounds?
I think it does. I think you need to find your own way to heal. For me, my healing was getting away from golf and infecting myself into the auto industry, which is now providing for my family in an amazing way that honestly golf didn't. I have more time with my family, I have holidays and weekends off, and I'm making more money caliber. Yeah. But that being said, in all honesty, I've healed to a point now to where I'm going to get back into golf, and I know why I want to get back into golf, and it's for me. It's not pushed on me or put on me, and it never was. I was just given tools back then, and I just decided, hey, I want to be a golf professional. I was one of 28,000 people in the world certified to do what I did. And I mean, to really think about the whole realm of things, that number, that's this big compared to this.
So when you say golf professional, kind of explain to them in a roundabout way what that actually entails.
Sure. So I ran golf courses, I taught lessons, I played in tournaments, coached leagues. Helped develop programs. I had some of the big, here in Indiana, I had some of the biggest junior camps that were known to golf courses. I learned a lot in Hawaii about how to make things fun. And I think golf really was so focused on one dynamic and one person in mind versus everybody and everything, and men and women and kids and people of different dynamics and cultures and money and everything else. Back when I was a kid, they were putting up like 365 courses a year. They're almost putting up a course a day once they got going and moving. And then it got to a point where they're losing like 270 a year because people aren't playing. It becomes too expensive and too time consuming. And one of the things I tried to really do is make golf fun, bring different people back and the dynamics to it. Like I play music and get it blasting, not like Caddyshack, but we had some fun at the course before you're teeing off in tournaments and everything else because we wanted to bring that dynamic to it, and it was fun. But it's like the one thing I realized in it was I didn't like golf itself because I spent too much time doing it. They expect a lot out of the people running the courses. But back to what you're saying, I ran the courses and taught and everything else, but I also played. I tried out for a few U.S. Open qualifiers. I missed a cut by 4 strokes, local qualifier that would have moved me on. So really quick, I'll say something really funny. So my brother was caddying for me, and he's riding the golf cart, and I'm walking, obviously, and in Hawaii you can do it. He's reading this damn paper, and we went off the backside first, and I put up like a 41 on the back, which would have been my front, the first 9. And we're walking through the tunnel going to the other side, and this guy says to me, he goes, "Man, you mean I had to get out of bed for a 41 as he's driving and reading the newspaper?" And I about punched the tunnel. I was so mad. And went out, was 3 under on the next side. And missed it. But to me, to go out and then just get so just pissed and found out, that's when you find out who you truly are.
Sure.
As a person, is what you do with adversity. Do you fold when you're put against the wall, or does your mind slow down? And that's the one thing I try to train my son to do is like when you get pissed, slow your mind down. Don't let the rage and anger take over. Control that moment and slow yourself down. And it's crazy when you train yourself to do it, everything around you slows down. And I know you know this. I know you've been in this auto industry your whole life. And for you, I love being around you and watching because in your mind, you're thinking 10 steps ahead. You've already diagnosed all of this. And some people are thinking about this rivet and you're thinking about this quarter panel already being done. And I love you for it. And that's why I really enjoyed the time of like working on the Mustang. And you show I bet I surprised you a little bit when it came to painting my truck. I just think I'm going to say I surprised you a little bit.
I just think I'm going to say I surprised you a little
Yeah,
bit.
during our 2-year window, guys, Mike was able to do an all-over paint job in a really a record amount of time for your first job, all over a paint job. That's hard to do. Mike's got a Ford Bronco that he stripped down and re-primered and re-colored, and kind of had a custom blue that he come up with, and man, it turned out really good, and you can't ask for any better during your first paint job. And it was actually a real fun project to work on with Mike, and it'd be something I always remember, because that's one of the things you always remember is not only your own first paint job, but anyone you're a part of doing that same thing as well. But man, I tell you, I'm so glad you came to the podcast and got to share your story with our viewers. And one of these days, you're going to look back at episode 1 and say, "Man, that was me, man."
Heck yeah. You know what? The next episode I'm in, I'll be floating in my pool in Florida. I'm doing it from there.
Yeah, speaking of, it would be ideal for me to head down there and see Mike down in Florida once he's established, and take a little time off, which is very rare for me, but take a little time off and go down and see Mike and his family, and enjoy some time down there. Again, like I said, Tampa Bay, Sarasota, Clearwater, that area for me of Florida is one of my all-time favorites. And I've been down as far as Siesta Keys, Anna Maria Island, places like that. And then on the dirty coast, which I call the Atlantic side, the dirty coast, and the best side, the Gulf Coast. I've been Cocoa Beach, just north of Miami there at Biscayne Bay, and places like that. But
Palm Coast is my favorite. It's below Jacksonville and north of Daytona, and they call it like Cinnamon Beach, because as far as you can see in both ways, it's like crushed coral, but the beaches are soft and it's all red.
Oh, yeah.
Cinnamon Beach is super beautiful down there.
Sure.
That's the one place when we were going to go to Florida. That's where we originally were going to want to go. It's surprising, though. I'm still in awe that I'm going down there not for golf. I mean, I am because I want to get back into it, but I'm going down in this industry, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, we had Anton was here, and he was able to transition down to Florida without any
Drives them off.
Yeah,
Never seen your face on News from Florida.
Dan Senior, you guys have seen me mention Dan Senior in my one of my first videos where I did a food review on some yogurt. But Dan is funny, man. But him and Anton, they were in a friendly way that they ground each other's gears, and
the banter never stopped. And when Anton left and I was new here, the banter hit me.
Yeah.
Thank God I have thick skin and I gave it back to that old bastard.
Speaking of, he's down in Florida right now on a 2-week vacation in an RV. It's funny to think about them packing up a big RV and just set and sail down there on
Dude, I seen down there on Mexico Beach and this little dove. Come on, man. That dude is
I'm hoping he took some pictures, but
and with his handlebars.
Yeah.
Old school handlebars.
Yeah.
I think the electric bike would be better.
Yeah. He looks like if Paul Senior was on crack cocaine. He's got that old school look. Very good, man. We've enjoyed working with Tim over the years.
Super knowledgeable.
Nice as can be. But yeah, that is funny to get out. But man, I tell you what, while we're talking about it, I want to talk about this week's gathering here. We're going to have a 10% off coupon for you to use on Mayano.com. That's MAONO.com. If you're in need of podcast equipment, any type of recording equipment, microphones, headphones, any of that, go on Mayano.com and use code GETBENT, one word, all capital letters, GETBENT, for your 10% off discount on anything they have on that website. Again, go to Mayano.com, use the code GETBENT, and get 10% off your order. So, Mike, we're going to wrap this thing up, and I've appreciated your time on this Friday evening, and I'd like to just again give you thanks for the short window of time we've been together here at the shop, and the things we've done, and we gave our listeners something to kind of chomp on as we get this thing up and going. But I had an overwhelming response. You've heard me say it before in some of the other videos, but we had 65 people when I opened up my email address. If you want to email us, you can email us any story you have, anything you would like us to mention on any of the podcasts or talk about. We are at Bent Over the Barrel Podcast at gmail.com. You can find our YouTube channel at Bent Over the Barrel Podcast, one word. You can also find us at Instagram at Bent Over the Barrel Podcast. We will have this on YouTube and Spotify, and we're working on getting Apple Music up and going. So we want our listeners to come back and enjoy this content. And I'm glad that you were my first guest. And episode number 1, been a great time. Good for people to get to know. Mike's what I call the real hero, of the world. There are several people down in the trenches just digging daily that you don't even have a clue who they are. Everyone can go on what I call the Big League podcast and listen to some of the big famous people and listen to their talk back and forth. We're about telling people who people like Mike are. What do they do? What's their background? What's their story? And that way you can get to know the real people of this world and start to feel comfortable with our content and come back and listen to us again. And again, I'm Lone Wolf. That's Mike. And he's just been bent over the barrel. Thanks for stopping by. See you on the next one.